In today's episode, new hire misses most of the first 3 weeks of work, then uses me as a reference. Don't like me leaving early? Guess I'll leave earlier then. She told me to do exact what she says, and I did. So let's get started. New hire misses most of the first 3 weeks of work, then uses me as a reference. Let's call her Karen, just because it fits. She came in and applied for a job, and when I looked at her resume and application, I realized she knew some of my old neighborhood friends and schoolmates. She interviewed well, so I gave her a job. Told her to be in Monday at 9 a.m. Monday morning, she is not in, she no calls, no shows. Tuesday, no call, no show, I had now written her off. Wednesday, she shows up about noon. Claims she was in her basement Sunday night and her brother was working out, and he accidentally knocked her out during his intense workout. She claimed her doctor told her she had a concussion and she should stay home for a couple days. She had no doctor's note, no marks on her head, but thinking her story was so off the wall it could almost be true, I let her come to work the next day. She worked Thursday and Friday. We paid at the end of every week and I gave her a check Friday. I also did not deduct the days she missed. She came to me and asked about the full paycheck. I told her we were a family business and realized people had lives outside work. He tried to make sure people knew they were appreciated and tried to take care of our people. She teared up and thanked me and said we could count on her. She worked the full next week, did okay. She seemed to fit in. Seemed. The third week, she showed up Monday, but Tuesday was another no-show, no-call. We did not hear from her for over 2 weeks. When she finally showed up, her story was the stuff of legends. She claimed her husband had forged divorce papers a couple years previous. Thinking she was divorced, she moved back into her parents' house. She claimed her ex-husband was at her parents' house when she got home the last night she worked. He told her he made up the divorce and the paperwork was phony, so they were still married, and he wanted to get back together. She claims she refused, and he kidnapped her. She said it took her until a couple days ago to get away from him. She wanted to come into work the next day. She did not call the police, and he wasn't arrested. There was nothing in the papers or on the news about any of this. She was not hurt, thank God. She asked if I believed her. I did not, but told her that I really needed someone I could count on coming in reliably every day. I gave her a paycheck for 1 week, she had worked 1 day, and told her I wished her good luck. I had already replaced her, and her replacement was one of the best employees we ever had. Here's the malicious compliance. The next month, I come into a phone message that someone from XXX company called for a reference for Karen. As my secretary is handing me the message, she's laughing at the look on my face. I asked if she was kidding, she said she was not. She said she got a call from a man saying he was the owner of a company in the area and he asked about Karen. Then my secretary asked if she could listen in on the call. She was a pistol. She then goes and gets my partner and tells him I am going to call and give Karen a reference. Now, he is in my office laughing too. I call the guy and we make some small talk. I tell him what we do, and he tells me what he wants Karen to do for him. I tactfully avoided answering any of his questions about Karen directly. I think he was beginning to suspect something. Remember folks, employers can get in a ton of trouble for bad references. He finally asked my opinion of Karen, and what I said was, if you can get Karen to work for you, you will be very lucky. He heard what I said, and how I said it. He repeated that back to me exactly as I said it. All my words were the right ones, it was my tone and intonation that got my point across. He thanked me and hung up. Karen comes into the office a couple days later. She looks mad, but is trying to be pleasant. She told me she is having trouble finding a job and mentioned she has used me as a reference. She wanted to know if anyone from XXX company has called me. She knew they did. She told me she really want the job at XXX company. I told her I had been called and that I told the guy he'd lucky to get her to work for him. My secretary confirmed that's what I told him. She told him she was right next during the whole conversation. Karen smiled and thanked me and headed to the door. She said she wondered why she was having so much trouble getting a job. She asked if she could continue to use me for a reference, and I told her absolutely. I also told her I'd tell everyone the same thing, that any employer would be lucky if they can get you to work for them. She walked away smiling, happy and clueless. Don't like me leaving early? Guess I'll leave earlier then. Cast of characters, of course the names are fake. Me, innocent bystander of the story. Mike, nitpicky coworker. Derek, coworker on disability. Story. I come into work this evening, and one of the first things I'm greeted with is Derek telling me that he's leaving at 8:30 tonight. I ask, disability, he says, yep. Background, anyone who knows someone, or is themselves, on disability knows that the disability people don't screw around. 1 minute over your allowed hours for the week, and you could lose your check. Anywho, I didn't think the wiser until Derek follows up with the fact that, last week, Mike had been nitpicking him about leaving 30 or so minutes before the end of his shift. We're a closing crew in a grocery meat department. Once our shit is clean, we're pretty much done and leave early, unless you're a full-timer, like Mike, who has to stick around to get their hours. Derek even tells Mike, I leave before shift ends earlier in the week so that I can stay and help until we're all done later in the week, when we're at our busiest. This is pivotal because the store manager likes to close on Fridays to make sure we're ready for the weekend. He typically annoys us about making sure the meat wall is stocked before we leave. If he comes in the next morning to an empty wall, he raises hell. On a good night, Derek would finish first and top the wall off before heading home. Cue the malicious compliance. This week, Derek worked his full shift every evening, wouldn't leave a minute before he was scheduled. However, our department leader schedules Derek over his disability time, but gives Derek any leeway he needs to stay within time, so he can arrive late or leave early, no consequences. The time added up to where he had to leave super early, at 8:30 this evening, normally 10. Unfortunately for Mike, our department was blown out by the time we were finished cleaning. That tends to happen when the weekend forecast is nice, and we live in a state with a famous horse race tomorrow. This meant Mike had another good hour of work, overtime, ahead of him before he could go home. As I was leaving, this is job 2 for me, and I don't work enough for OT, so I was out. I told Mike, next time, don't nitpick the guy about leaving early, he'll just leave earlier. She told me to do exact what she says, and I did. I am a secretary for a medical facility that funds other medical institutions. I am also responsible for their travel to conventions and conferences. There is a very large, very highly attended conference held each year in which our medical professional staff are invited as presenters. One such Karen-esque presenter just has to be incredibly difficult as she feels she is above us dregs and never lets us forget it. As a presenter, they are given certain hotels that are reserved for them at a reduced rate. However, most are nowhere near the convention site, and they end up paying a crap load of money to cabs, no Uber at the time. I set up the travel for at least 10 folk when I realized that by a loophole I can book them into the hotel where the conference is held. So I do that instead of allowing the CONF coordinators to book them in heaven nowhere at the last minute, which they are prone to do. Karen come up to me and demands that I only book her into the hotels listed BT the conference coordinators, and if I don't she will have me written up. So that's what I did. The day before they all leave for the conference, which was clean across the country on the West Coast, Karen found out she was not only the only one not booked in the conference hotel, but she was 9 miles away near the airport, and no, there were no more rooms available at CONF Hotel. She was hopping mad and stormed to my desk screaming about my putting her in a faraway 2-star hotel. I looked at her and calmly stated that she was in one of the 3 hotels the CONF coordinators reserved for her, and she distinctly instructed me to only select those hotels and nothing else. She ended up spending more than $70 in cab fare to and from the hotel to the venue, while everyone else only had to go downstairs from their hotel rooms. She almost missed giving her presentation because she was late. After that, when I booked everyone for a trip, Karen no longer demanded I give her special treatment and lets me use my judgment when booking hotels. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.